Greetings, Earthlings.
We are Johnita, Francis, and Trish Rock, your empowerment influencers.
No fluff conversations about life, empowerment, spirituality, and freedom.
And thank you for joining us again. And our sponsors, Holistic Bliss Magazine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Johnita, legs 11.
Oh!
For those of you who need that interpreted, this is our 11th show.
I thought we were playing bingo. I was like, I didn't make off my numbers.
I used to be a bingo caller, by the way. We could probably play that game one day.
Oh, wow. I used to scream out bingo all the time, whether I had bingo or not, just to keep things interesting. I think Granny only took me a few times. I wasn't allowed to go back.
No, the oldies wouldn't have liked you very much at all, disrupting their serious play.
Oh, it's very serious, isn't it? I thought it was a bit of fun, but yeah. And they don't like it when you put extra freckles on your face using the blotters either. Very, unnecessary behaviour.
That's it. They've all got their own seat too.
Oh, I thought I was a riot. Obviously not.
Oh dear. All right. Well, here we are again for another fun-filled podcast. Our live audience has joined us already. Yippee! Welcome everybody. And if you are on the replay or on the podcast, we are now on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and about 5 others. So you can see us all sorts of places if you are on the podcast listening. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So that means that we're like Oprah level famous, which means that if you want our autographs, it's going to be very expensive in the next couple of weeks. You might want to get it now. Don't hold out for the good price. Hold out.
Hold out for the good price.
All right, let's get the Wheel of Wisdom.
Boom, 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 boom.
You ready?
I am ready. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Right. I'll pop it up in screen. 3, 2, 1. Fingers crossed, everybody.
Spin that wheel, DJ.
Be kind, spirit.
Trauma release and emotional freedom technique.
Oh, I knew it was going to be a tough one tonight. I nearly didn't show up.
Wow, that would have been very interesting. I would have had to have had one of those conversations where you say, what do you think about that? I don't know. What do you think about that? This could have actually, I probably would have enjoyed it. Not that I don't enjoy chatting with you, but
you could have just called your team in and had one on either side and one behind and just really got into it.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. So, trauma.
It's interesting, isn't it, with trauma? I mean, you've had a lot of physical and emotional trauma in your life, which far outweighs anything I've had. But, there's also trauma recently. I think people are experiencing trauma through all this COVID stuff too. So we've got a lot we can talk about.
We have indeed. We have.
Yay.
Yes, I would say that I'm one of those unique people that likes to experience by actually freaking doing it. You can't say to me, don't do that. You'll get electrocuted. You'll get burnt. You'll get this. You'll get that. I'll be like, here, hold my beer. And I'm straight in. So I'm a bit of a trauma specialist because of that. It's like I was a trauma magnet for the first 35 years of my life. So
yeah. But that's your incredible gift and how you help people too. So
yeah, absolutely. Look, it's certainly you have 2 choices in life. You can live in the past and give it fuel and relive it and be angry and be hurt or be hurtful, be resentful, or you can say fuck it and just get on with it. I mean, we've all got lessons to learn. Sometimes we create the environment to harden our characters, to soften our characters, to give us character. And I think the worst thing we can do through all of that trauma, and I'll share a really horrible story with you because I want to show you how much I smile when I tell it now. But we've got an opportunity to release it. We don't have to live it every single day. I found out last year how I got my hearing loss. Now, I always knew there was a bit of a story to it because none of the stories ever added up. I always got told different things when I said, but last time you told me this time you're telling me that. I could never actually get to the bottom of my hearing. Or why I don't have any hearing. And I met through an old site and a Facebook group, lo and behold, a family friend or someone that knew the family when I was an infant, and And apparently when babies cry, if you hit them, they stop crying. So
Yeah.
my father, biological father, decided to hit me because I was an infant and I was crying. So
Yeah.
that's how I got my hearing loss. Now, I don't want anyone to feel sadness because I'm smiling about this, because I have a choice now. Now, I
Mm.
always knew that there was something wrong with this story because I was told initially I was malnourished. Now, then I saw a photo of myself, and they never had photos of me, okay? So I saw a photo of myself, and I'm
Mm.
like a freaking original sumo wrestler as a baby. So I don't know if I
A
ate
bit
the
like me.
nourishment. Yeah,
A
like
bit like me now in my COVID state.
I had the COVID chin when I was an infant, okay? That's how trendy I was. I was
Wow,
COVID
you
way
were
before
in.
COVID. Yeah, that's predicting. See, that's psychic medium. I
Yep.
predicted that crap for miles.
Yep.
So, and I have a choice. Now, I knew that there was
Yeah.
something wrong, as I was saying. I knew that it didn't add up. I knew that the
Yeah.
stories weren't making sense. And I was more concerned through all of this that if I decided to have children of my own, would my hearing loss potentially, be something that I have passed on to my son or daughter?
Yeah.
And I remember a very dismissive maternal person, who shall remain nameless, said to me, "Don't be ridiculous. It's not hereditary." And I'm like, well, how does hereditary start? It can't start with one person, dumbass. So that aside, I thought, something doesn't feel right here. So when I met this family friend that had actually been around, she said to
Yeah.
me, "How's your sister with the hearing loss, the deaf one?" And I'm like,
Mm.
"I'm the
I'm
deaf
the deaf
one.
one.
I'm the deaf one." And she's like, "You know how you got that?" And I'm like, "Hit me, Scotty," because it
Yeah.
doesn't sound right to me. And she
Yeah.
told me the story behind it. And the worst thing, I suppose, and the disappointing thing, but when you come away and you think about it and you apply 5D thinking to the situation, you realize that this is in the 70s. Domestic violence was every second night, every second household. Mums and dads
Yeah.
were at it. There was drinking, drugs, all sorts of things, crazy shit going on. Um, and everybody, it was acceptable, okay, back then. It doesn't mean it's acceptable at all, okay, but it was
No.
acceptable. And I can understand people not wanting to get involved because my biological
Yeah.
father was an extremely violent person. I don't have anything to do with them anymore for a myriad of reasons, but this one in
Yes.
particular.
Yeah.
So I have a choice when I found out this information. I could choose to get really angry. I could track them down and tell them what I really thought about them. I could let that ruin my life for the rest of my life. Or I can
Mm.
say, I always knew something wasn't right. Now I finally got the answer. I feel relief because I've got a diagnosis, like when you're
Yeah.
unwell and you don't know what's going on.
That's it.
And I can just go, well, you know what? Being angry, being upset, grieving for it, being disgusted, all those things only consume me. They don't give a shit. Because
Well,
if
it
they
still
gave a
gives
shit, they would have been honest about how I got it to start with, instead of letting me go through the
yeah.
trauma of thinking about, if I had a child, will I pass this on? Telling me
Mm.
5 or 6 different stories about how I got my hearing loss.
That's it.
So trauma is a very interesting thing for me because I smile every time I talk about it. Not because I'm
Yeah.
laughing it off, or it's because I have a conscious decision to not allow it to impact my day, my present, my moment, this moment right now. And I won't allow it to do that. I process it, I let it go. And it's about 5-dimensional living for me. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that and I help people with this too, if you keep carrying it, your body relives it. Your body's
Yep.
reliving it every time
Yep.
you rethink it.
Yep.
And so it goes into trauma, and the anger's still there. And the other thing is that you're still allowing those other people to be in control
Yep.
if you're not
Absolutely.
letting it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, there has to come a time where you process it. And there were a couple of days where I went, I fucking knew it. I knew there was something wrong here. I just bloody knew it. And it was more of a relief thing for me because, if
Yeah.
you keep getting an eczema breakout every spring and no one can work out why, and then all of a sudden you meet a naturopath and she said, "Oh, because you're allergic to grass seeds and you sit on the grass every spring," all of a sudden your whole world opened up. You're not
Yeah.
angry with the grass, you're not angry with the grass seeds, you're not angry with all the GPs for getting it wrong. You just go, shit, yeah, I know what this is all about now. And you
It's
can get on with
yeah.
things.
It's the knowing of it, yeah, and
Yep.
I mean, you've got an inquisitive mind too, and you need to know the reasons behind things,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that it's kind of would have closed a door for you, really.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one less
Yeah.
thing I need to worry about. The
Yeah.
interesting thing was I was doing some work around the emotion code, and we'll get to the emotional freedom technique in a minute.
Mm.
And the therapist that I was working with, a lovely lady named Brenda, she said to me, "Oh, you've got um, a physical trauma with your hearing." And I'm like, physical? She said, "Did you get a knock to the head or something?" And she told me this probably 2 or 3 months before this other lady had actually confirmed or told me what the story was behind my
Ah,
hearing. So
okay.
it wasn't a shock, not that anything would shock me, but it wasn't a shock when I got this new information, because the emotion code therapist had actually already kind of alluded to the fact that there was a physical trauma associated with this. It was a
Yeah.
crystal, the audio crystals in my ears were not lining up, and it's because I copped a knock. So everything sort of went, it's like all the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle came together. So it was awesome. It was really
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And so I know that's one trauma you've had, and you've had a lot of other traumas, but all of that work you've done to not accept any of it, but just not to carry it with you,
Yeah.
really helps everybody you work with as well. And I think that, any trauma you have, if you keep carrying it with you, you're just experiencing that trauma. You're re-traumatizing yourself all the time. So it's
Yeah.
it's really important to do the work, and you can't just flick it off like that. It takes work,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
sure you've done a lot of work around it. It takes tears, it takes anger. You've got to
Yeah.
get it out of your system, and so the EFT system is really fantastic for all
Yeah.
of that as well. And I think for even less serious kind of traumas, I guess. Look, let's face it, if someone's traumatized, is there a degree? Perhaps, but it's still trauma.
Yeah.
And
And it's also how they interpret it. Like, trauma for
yes,
somebody who had never had air conditioning in their house might be very different for someone who had the air conditioning their entire life, and the air
yeah.
conditioner's got a remote control battery that's flat. But it's
Third
still
world,
trauma, and
first
we're
world
giggling about it,
traumas.
but it's still trauma for that person. It's
It
still
is.
traumatic response. Yeah.
It is. I know over the last 4 months there's been a lot of fear, and people are in loss of jobs and things like that, and that's created some trauma there too. And um, you know, fortunately for many of them, they've gotten out of that hole, but there are still some people under that mud of trauma with all of that too. So the EFT technique will really help them too. So are we going to
Yeah.
walk through some of that? Are we, to help people
Oh,
today?
yeah, yeah. I discovered emotional freedom technique accidentally,
Yep.
and somebody said to me, "Just jump online and have a look." Well, the first few people were so annoying, like, and the thing is, they
You'll
were
get
doing all
that.
this little, they were smacking mosquitoes all over their faces and all over their arms, and they're beating themselves in the chest. And I'm thinking, I don't even understand what we're doing. Are we doing the Macarena? I mean, what is going on here? So, but then I discovered this really, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but dorky guy, right? And he's named Brad Yates,
Oh, I used to
Yates.
listen to Brad.
I
He is
love
he is
him.
dorky.
Look, he's like Family
But he's
Ties,
yeah,
80s glasses, 80s hairstyle. He's as boring as batshit, and the
but
man
he's
is
very
literally a
practical.
genius.
He's very practical, very logical, and very easy to listen to.
Oh my God, he is.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of emotional freedom technique is to acknowledge that you're in this stress moment, this anxiety
Yes.
moment, okay?
Yes.
And then as you go around your meridian points and you come back to the beginning again, it actually removes some of the stress. You're tapping out. That's enough in our life, so you're tapping out. And Brad has got the easiest, simplistic manner. He
Yeah.
uses all the right words. The first few videos I giggled because I just love him, how dorky he is. He's just brilliant. But then when the giggling stopped and I actually listened to what he was saying, he hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head with me with so many
Yeah.
different techniques. He's just an absolute genius when it comes to this technique.
Mm.
Yeah. So and I always have the disclaimer when I'm doing healings with people. and I do verbal healings with people, talk them through that process. And I said, look, you've got to check out Brad Yates, total dork,
Yep.
but you will love him because he's brilliant at what he does.
Yeah. And so he's
Yeah,
on YouTube, everybody. You can just type in Brad Yates, EFT, and it'll pop up. And he's got so many
he's all
different
place.
ones. So let's run
Yeah,
through the basics for people. So as you said, we tap different points of the body, and we repeat what the actual trauma or issue is.
yeah,
But then the second time round, it's different. It's the solution, and
yeah,
it changes the not the pulses, but the information that's stored in the brain. It in the memory. It
yeah,
shifts. It shifts it. It shifts
yeah,
the emotion. It shifts the emotional response.
yeah. It's like creates a ripple. So
Yeah.
it's hard to keep your pond flat when there's, you pop a stone in it, you create a ripple. So it shifts the frequency, and the meridian points
Yes.
obviously are very important points because so many alternative therapies use them.
Yeah.
And even crystal therapy people, if they're really clever, they will use the meridian points to tap into your frequency to shift it. Oh, is that your boss?
That's my dog,
Okay,
the
that's the
boss,
demon dog.
Rosie. Yeah, yeah. Come
So
on.
and then and emotional freedom technique. So when I first started doing it, because I was doing it because I was getting very frustrated with a few people, they were really frustrating me, and you can choose that F pronunciation anytime you like. So the first one is like karate chopping on your hand. So your
Yeah.
flat hand, and it hits underneath your pinky finger and your hand, right?
Yeah.
And I would always start with, "Oh my God, you're pissing me off," and it was always a syllable slap, right? Because by the time I remembered that, oh, EFT, EFT, then I was already
Yeah.
pissed, okay, pissed
Yeah.
off. So the syllable slap always started first, and then I realized that the next part is in between your forehead, like on your third eye. So then
Mm.
obviously I didn't syllable slap myself there because I'm not stupid, I just have a bit of a temper. So that was the next part for me in between, and then around near your eyebrow is the next part. So it's sort of
Yeah.
kind of where your eyebrow finishes and on your temple, and then
Yeah.
underneath, like where your squishy eye socket is, and then the top of your lip, and then I think it's underneath. Do you go underneath? Yeah, your
Chin,
chin. Thank you. Your chinny chin chin.
and
And
then
then
here.
it's like your just
It's
above
kind of
your sternum.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of in
yeah.
there. And some people do under the arm, but I don't do under the arm.
Well,
But
I
you
always
can
do the farting ones when I go under the
you do the
arms.
fighting.
Yeah. My inner child is a 12-year-old boy. What can I
Ah,
say?
okay.
Yeah.
So with that, you can use like one finger, two fingers,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want to do, what feels comfortable. But yeah, that's the routine. Here, and it's just the same amount of time to say a sentence. I think there's about 3 statements on the hand, and then one statement, one statement, one statement, one
Yeah.
fart.
Yeah. Blow it all out your ring hole. See? I think
And
it's a
then
feel.
and then you do another round.
Yeah.
Should we do like a pretend one to show people just a taste of what it is, but then send them off to Bradley?
I can't even compete with Brad. I mean, I can be pretty dorky. You've only got to see my 80s lock of hair, but the man is honestly absolutely
Yeah,
amazing. So it's Yates, Brad
yes,
Yates.
yes,
And if you've got anxiety or you worry about things, anxiety rather is um, the fear of not being able to control what's coming. So Brad
yeah,
does this beautiful one, and it's about letting go, and it's about control and fear of letting go. And
mm,
it when you read it on YouTube, it makes you sound like, or the way he's worded it, kind of gives you the impression that you're a control freak. Therefore, you have to watch this one to stop being a control freak. But it's
mm,
not that at all. It's being able to
yeah,
go with the flow a little bit more to take that anxiety off. Just tone it
mm.
down a bit. It's brilliant. It's one of my favorite
All
ones, and
right.
I don't suffer from anxiety. But
No, well,
if
I
you want
don't either. Let's do a pretend one because I'm hopping on a plane to Adelaide tomorrow. Let's do a pretend one about that.
to, okay,
I'll just run through one quickly just to for people
perfect.
who don't know what it is. And obviously, if it's a deeper trauma, then there's more to it. But I'm just going to run through it once and then run through the solution. Okay, so And chime in with anything you think of.
You want me to say which point you're tapping?
If you want to, yeah.
That way you won't
So,
have to concentrate on that. You can just do the problem and the solution.
all
All
right,
right.
yeah.
So
And
karate
I
chop hand.
and I have no problem with flying tomorrow, but let's just pretend that I do. So,
Okay.
I'm feeling very anxious about flying to Adelaide tomorrow. What if I can't get on the plane? What if there's germs at the airport? I'm feeling really anxious about my trip to Adelaide tomorrow.
Moving to the forehead.
What if the flight gets delayed? What
Moving
if I
to the
don't even
eyebrow.
What if I don't even make it to Adelaide? What if I don't even make it on the plane?
Underneath the
What if
eye.
what if I do make it on the plane and I have to sit next to somebody who's sneezing?
Top lip.
What if I get on the plane and I get sick?
On your chin.
I'm really anxious about getting on this plane tomorrow and going to Adelaide.
On your chest.
There's so many things that could go wrong, and it's really creating some nervous moments in me.
Under your arm.
Yeah, my anxiety levels are quite high about this trip tomorrow. Okay, so that got a bit repetitive, but if you've got a real problem, there'll be more things that you can actually say about the real problem, right?
Yeah. And the idea is to acknowledge the fact that you understand where your anxiety, your nervousness, your anxiousness, your frustration, your anger, your emotion that you're feeling, you're acknowledging that it's there and that it exists and why it exists. That's the key important to take away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And acknowledgement, as we know in all of our coaching and mentor work, acknowledgement is key. You've got to acknowledge before you can dissolve or find a solution.
Yeah.
So let's go again. And so
Karate
now
chop.
we're going to do the positive reinforcement with the
Yeah.
EFT. Okay, I feel great about flying to Adelaide tomorrow. I'm not nervous at all. Everything will be fine.
Forehead.
The airline has told me that the flight is going on time.
Eyebrow.
I will take all the precautions I need to be safe.
Under eye.
I will create some psychic and energetic magic and make sure I'm sitting by myself.
Top of lip.
And I feel really great. I feel like this trip is going to be really with ease and grace.
And chin.
And it's going to be effortless and enjoyable.
And your chest.
And I feel like I'm really going to have a great time, actually. I love flying and the trip's going to go well.
And armpit.
I'm not feeling anxious at all about my trip tomorrow. So, guys, that was pretty basic, but that's really the thing. It's tapping on the points, acknowledging, and then,
Replacing that negative sense.
replacing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're basically reprogramming yourself.
Yeah.
And the meridian points are brilliant for that. So there's lots of different ways that we can de-stress ourselves using the meridian points. And EFT is one of the craziest, weirdest, but most effective, cheapest way that you can bring your anxiety, your stress levels down instantly.
It absolutely works. And I find myself doing this quite often. Just if I'm having something I need to shift, I'll just kind of tap here, and that helps me because I've got stuff going through my mind. So,
and
but definitely
that just beneath that point there, in between your sternum, so in between your nipples. Oh, well, depending on how old you are. In between your 20-year-old nipples.
That's my belly button. No,
There's
no.
a pressure in between your boobs and at
Yeah.
the little sunken bit, right,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you that's actually a depression point for meridians. So if you push on
Ah.
that just softly enough for you to know that you're there, that's actually releasing some depression that you may have. So I started doing that ages ago when I was
Ah.
reading for people with depression. I thought, why am I playing with my boobs? I'm trying to read for
Mhm.
somebody. And then
Yeah.
when I got off the call, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's actually, I was doing a live show and oh my
Ah.
goodness, that's the depression point. And I tell everybody about that because I did it intuitively. So I knew it was important, but I didn't realize
Yeah.
what it was for. So it's a
So
very
do you
good
just
point.
tap that, do you?
Yeah,
Like,
just tap
just
that or
tap it?
rub it, just as long as it feels that you're there and you're
Yeah.
shifting that energy around. It's right in between your
Yeah.
boobs. You'll feel it because it'll be
It's the
sensitive.
depressed bit. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. No, that's great to know. So, yeah, so releasing trauma. I mean, I think you also have to
You gotta
for
want to do it.
yeah, you've got to want to do it and you've got to be at that point. But I've seen people do this because I know a lot of people who do EFT. I've seen people do it on people who are, can't stop crying and are very worked up. And within 2 or 3 rounds, the peace and the calm has come. It's incredible to watch. So
It is.
it really is a fantastic tool. And whether you want to, work with it and learn it for clients, because I know a lot of people listening and watching have their own clients, or whether just use it for yourself, it's a fantastic tool to have in your kit bag.
It is, absolutely. I used to do it
Hmm.
because I worked with somebody who used to drive me nuts. So I actually started doing it under the executive table, and I'd be like, "I'm going to punch him in the face." No, you can't punch him in the face. Watch me punch him in the face. I've killed him 15 times in my mind, and I'd be tapping myself furiously. And I always tried to hide it, like by pushing my hair back. And then one day I thought, stuff it. I'm just going to do it. So I pulled my hand out on top of the exec table in the middle of a board meeting and started tapping. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm saving your life. Trust me." And then I explained what EFT was all about. And then all of a sudden, everybody else was actually having a bit of fun with it. And it took the edge off the meetings instantly, even though, but, it took the frustration out. And that's what it's all about. It's about putting a different
Yes,
light in something, having a different frequency to play with while you're having these moments. So it was great. It was a great
absolutely.
outcome.
It takes the charge out of the emotions. And of course, if your emotions about any topic, about any subject, about any experience keep getting triggered, you will be back in trauma. You will be
Yep.
back in that
Every time.
moment. You will be back in there and you'll be living it again and your body will be going through it again.
Yep.
So it's to really take the charge out of those emotions. This is a absolutely fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous tool. So
And you owe it to
yeah,
yourself to,
yeah,
to not, and I know that obviously some trauma is more deep seated than others. I've got a lot of childhood trauma. Um,
yes.
but you have to make that conscious decision. At no point being an alcoholic and drinking beer every day, wishing that you weren't an alcoholic. Okay. You actually need to make a
Mm,
conscious decision. You need to have the intent to want to be clearer in your life and freer
mm.
in your thought patterns and not be living
Yeah,
in fear or anxiety or stress or concern or grief. You have to make that intent, that physical intent. And when you do that and you create the action, the universe will turn up and give you the results every single time. But the universe
absolutely.
won't give you the results unless you're doing the intent and the action.
Absolutely. And that's actually something I worked with. I had a full day of clients yesterday, and each one of them just needed to take that first step forward. And
Yep.
fear holds us back, and all sorts of crazy stuff in our head holds us back. And but take that first step forward and back yourself, and the universe comes and backs you,
Yeah. The
supports you
biggest fan.
fully.
It's like the mama bear. You
Yeah.
just got to trust that she'll be there and she will be every time.
Absolutely. But I'd
Yeah.
highly recommend, and Janita and I both have mentors and coaches over time of with all different sorts of things in our lives. So, um, and you'll find all of the leaders in any industry all have mentors and coaches. And I think it's important for people to reach out. Yes, go and watch it on YouTube. Yes, go and find out a little bit about it. But if you've got something big that you want to work through, you need somebody there with you
Yeah.
to help you and support you and to see it from another point of view, to see it from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Put
Yeah.
things into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
And
to be
also
that
manageable
support, and
chunks.
and just really create a safe space, because if you're going to be reliving anything that doesn't feel safe, you want to be in a safe place with somebody there who's got your back,
Yeah,
because you don't want to be stuck in that fear again and not be able to get out of it. So I'd highly
exactly right.
recommend do this work with someone, with a coach or a mentor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Trish and I do that just out there. I'll be cheeky enough to say it. That's kind of
Just
what we do.
just
We do it
saying.
bloody well.
just saying.
All right. I think that brings us to the
Oh,
end of our session. That's
I
been a good
think
one.
it has been interesting, and we've had some lovely comments here in the in
Oh,
our live audience. So we'll go back and when we finish, and we'll answer some of those. But yeah, definitely. Let's just have a look though. Does this method work with past trauma? Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely it
Yep.
will. And Monzi has a dark patch of skin right there on that depression point.
Ah,
Interesting.
okay.
Yeah. And what else we got? Nikki, I should try this before assessments. Absolutely. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the best time when you're freaking out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So, no, that's been great. And our fabulous sponsors, Holistic Bliss Magazine, they've just released the August issue. So,
Ah,
yeah, it's just brilliant. All sorts of stories. Johnita's got a fabulous article in there, and our podcast is advertised in there because we are famous.
we
And
are.
and so definitely get online, holisticblissmagazine.com, and check out all of the amazing people in there for August. You'll be blown away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and with that, we shall wish you all the best for the coming week. Thank you again
Yes.
for joining us for this episode. Remember, you can watch us live every Wednesday night at 6:30 Australian Eastern Time, and you can also subscribe to our podcast.
Yes,
Sorry.
on. That's okay. I've deleted my sticky note. You
Oh,
can
do
subscribe.
Bugsprout,
You can. Buzzsprout, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google
Apple.
Play, Apple iPod, and Buzzsprout. Did I say that?
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, we're getting really good at this. It only took us 11 episodes and we
Yeah,
finally got it.
I know,
That's
right?
ad lib people for you. See, we're creative geniuses. All right. Once again, big thank you to Holistic Bliss Magazine for all of your support and everybody who is listening. Thank you so much. And this has been number 11 episode of A Guided Life. Thank you very much for coming along.
Bye.
Bye, guys.